It's a wonderful day to be a National Hockey League fan. We have two trades on the chopping block. One from admittedly way earlier in the morning. I didn't get a chance to talk about this when it went down. And we also have another trade that just went down. Ladies and gentlemen, the Toronto Maple Leafs have traded away Joseph Woll. It is John Chayka's first trade as GM of Toronto. The Maple Leafs have acquired defenseman Emil Andrae, goaltender Samuel Ersson, as well as a 2026 third-round pick in exchange for Joseph Woll and Simon Benoit. Now, on paper, you can look at this deal and say, wait a minute, Joseph Woll, wasn't this guy pretty good? Yeah? I mean, he had an .899 save percentage. That's not, amazing. It's quite below average compared to the way NHL goaltending has progressed these days. But last year, Woll had a .909 save percentage in 42 games played. There is some decent upside potential in Woll. He's 27 years old now, so you can say that if he's not able to string together a full starter's worth of a load with a 900-plus record, maybe this is more or less what he is. But there was a decent amount of Maple Leafs fans that believed in Woll to be the guy. However, the new guy coming in is Samuel Ersson, 26 years old, so technically younger, although he will be 27 in October. Ersson last season split the load with Philly. He had an .870 save percentage in 33 games played, an .883 the year before that, and an .890 the year before that. Ersson is not the goalie that Joseph Woll was or is. So why did this trade get done? Well, it's because Simon Benoit is going over to Philly. 27-year-old defenseman, he's making $1.35 million a year this season, and you can say that the guy was probably due for a raise, and that may be seen as to why Toronto made this deal. Darren Dreger said this yesterday. I was told teams are doing their due diligence on Woll and Nyes. The fact that Woll, and he got traded so quickly, is a bit of a surprise to some people. Philadelphia emerged as the best option for Woll in the last few days. Now, this also is pretty interesting to me when you consider the fact that the Samuel Ersson era was potentially going to come to an end as a 1B-ish caliber option, and I say that because Dan Vladar was in the system. He had a .906 save percentage this previous year in 50 games played. That's a pretty good record. He had a .922 in 10 games in the playoffs. That's awesome. And Dan Vladar was in rumored talks to getting an extension done so quickly over the past few days that I'm kind of thinking all right, well, if they were going to just shell out and give all the money to Dan Vladar, did they really need to go out there and trade Ersson at this point? Ersson could have taken a full back seat. You could have just settled with Vladar as the number one. Why are you introducing Joseph Woll into the fold? I get that he is better than Ersson, yes, but I think he's actually a good amount better, that it opens the door to him potentially being good enough to challenge Dan Vladar for the starting job. I don't know, am I too optimistic on Joseph Woll? You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Here's a comment from Tito, essentially breaking down why this trade went down. Simon Benoit has no value. He's a throw-in. Ersson, no value. He's a throw-in. Meanwhile, the rest of the trade follows suit. It's Joseph Woll in exchange for Emil Andrae, a 24-year-old defenseman, and a third-rounder. Artur Akhtiamov really seems to be the guy in the Maple Leafs' eyes, and Hildeby is not a waiver casualty now. Makes a ton of sense, to be honest. See, it hurts, and I agree with this analysis, but they weren't ready to ship Stolars for a bag of pucks. Retools are painful. It's only going to get more painful. This is exactly the plan of this trade. The Leafs see Hildeby as the better option over Woll. And Emil Andrae, this is the guy coming over to Toronto as well, the defenseman. He's a really interesting name. Now, he's 5'9", 194, a left-handed defenseman, second-round pick by Philly back in 2020, a guy that probably could have gone a lot higher if he was just a little bit taller. But he's a puck-moving guy. He was taken out of the Swedish system. He had a lot of points in the Swedish Junior League, and over the past few years, he has slowly started to get those NHL games up and up. He had 42 games in 24-25, and 61 games in 25-26, finally establishing himself as a full-time name. 13 points in those 61 games, too. He had an assist in 4 games in the playoffs, and the fact that he is a small defenseman at 24 opens the door for a lot more to happen to him in his career. Toronto wants to take that shot, and acquiring him in exchange for Joseph Woll does seem to be the plan here for what they're trying to do. They also do see some value in the other goalie options that they have. So quite an interesting trade for John Chayka to pull off as his time in Toronto comes to a start. You can let me know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about the Woll for Andrae trade? But meanwhile, we have ourselves another deal that just went down before we started recording this video. Ross Colton, out of the Colorado Avalanche, is heading to Nashville. Makes sense, as Nashville's new boss was his old one in Colorado. Here's the official trade details. Trade. The Colorado Avalanche have acquired a 2026 third-round pick from Nashville and their own 2027 third-round pick, plus goaltender Magnus Chrona in exchange for forward Ross Colton and goaltender Isak Posch. Now, this is a really interesting move. Ross Colton, I saw a lot of Avalanche fans going out there and saying, like, hey, wait a minute, why are we trading one of the only guys that actually looked interested in competing against Vegas? I'm going to miss his speed and grit. But we can probably find better value for $4 million AAV. Ross Colton is 29 years old, and he is signed till the end of 2027, making $4 million apiece. Last year, he had 24 points in 73 games played. Sure, he has had some more productive seasons in the past. 39 points in Tampa, 21-22, 40 points in Colorado, 23-24. There was a period in this season, I believe it was it this season or was it one of the other ones, where Ross Colton was an absolute goal-scoring machine up until he got injured. I think it might have been last season where he started the year off hot. He was one of the best goal scorers in the National Hockey League. Yeah, this is it. The 24-25 season, Ross Colton opened it up with all these multi-goal games. He was playing with McKinnon, and he was doing some pretty good work. But either way, Ross Colton, when he's not playing with McKinnon, he's just a normal dude, and he provides a lot of work ethic, a lot of grit. Seems like Chris McFarland really did want to bring this guy back, so that's why he's acquired from Colorado onto McFarland's new team in Nashville. Also going over to the Predators is Isak Posch, a 24-year-old goaltender, 6'3", 209, drafted out of the No franchise because he was not drafted, never mind. He was a free agent signing. Taken out of the NCAA, St. Cloud State University, went over to the Colorado Eagles, and then got a Colorado Avalanche contract. This is pretty interesting. Not to say that this is going to amount to anything significant at the NHL level, but Isak Posch is a guy. Meanwhile, you also have Magnus Chrona that gets swapped around in this deal. He was initially drafted by Tampa Bay, found himself over into the University of Denver system. The Pioneers in the NCAA had a really strong 4 years there as a goalie in that system before getting sent over to San Jose and then eventually Nashville. He had an .894 save percentage in 25 games with the Milwaukee Admirals this season. Not great, but it seems like he'll be taking his talent over to Brinash IF in the SHL. As it was noted in some of the commentary, Magnus Chrona went from a University of Denver guy to being a Colorado Avalanche prospect. So nice to see this 25-year-old back in Denver. You also have yourselves the draft picks over here. That adds a little bit of extra value for Colorado. It does seem like Ross Colton was the most valuable piece getting traded in this move. Posch is, I'd say, maybe just a tad below Magnus Chrona, but then again, it's mix and match with these mid-20s-ish goaltenders. Doesn't seem to be a trade that a lot of Avalanche fans are super happy with, but still, they can understand the value there. Money is money after all, and Ross Colton was a middle-to-bottom six guy making $4 million a piece. Love the work ethic, love the intensity, but is he really the best use of that money? Who really knows? Nashville thinks that it's the best use of that money. That's why they got him. So with that said, you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section. How do you feel about these two trades? Joseph Woll is a Philadelphia Flyer. Ross Colton is a Nashville Predator. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.